So, a few months ago, I tested out a very cracked but very interesting setup. We figured out what happened when Hyperion met Crimson Armor. Now, we all know the reason why Crimson Armor is so good is because when you kill an enemy, you gain stacks. When you're at full stacks, you basically deal double damage. It's not quite double, it's near enough double. And then the swipe ability ticks, and you just deal a ton of damage. Now, these stacks aren't just obtainable via, let's say, melee weapons, but also magical damage weapons, such as the Hyperion. Meaning that if you take a Hyperion, and you take at least 2 pieces of Crimson and maybe combine it with Mage Gear, you get a pretty damn ridiculous setup. However, in this video that I made, for some reason, I didn't really quite understand how stacks worked, and that you actually needed stacks in order for the Crimson to tick, and to do even more damage. And also, when I've just sort of watched that video back, I've kind of cringed a little bit, because I was completely disregarding the fact that you needed stacks. So I think it's time to do this lab creation of a setup justice. So first of all, we're going to take our Crimson chestplate. We're also going to take our Crimson leggings. We're going to take our Wither goggles, and we're going to take our Storm boots, because I don't yet have a good Aurora set. If I did, I probably would be using Aurora boots, but it's Storm for now. Of course, we have a Hyperion, we also have an Overflux too. Now, we need to sort these pieces of Crimson out. First of all, they need Necrotic instead of Ancient, and we should also probably put Wisdom on there too. So that's the Necromancer's Brooch, and that's also Wisdom. There we go. And the same for the leggings, Necrotic, and then also Wisdom. Lovely. Perfect. Alright, so we're going to do some base damage tests. First of all, I think we're going to put this weird set away and just use a regular Storm set with the Wither goggles to get a bit of a base sort of comparison damage. We're also going to use the Sheep Pet because, well, intelligence might be a little bit of an issue in terms of mana when we switch to our Crimson set, so the Sheep is going to help. And we want to keep it consistent. We're using Sighted, and then we've also got basically tuning points to intelligence. Almost forgot we need to put our Implosion Belt and Gauntlet Augmentation on. They're not very good, but they have the abilities. Anyway, holding this Hyperion, we have just over 4.8k mana. And if we just do a little bit of a damage test on one regular standalone zombie, we deal around about 1.7 million damage. If we then get this crazy setup ready and make this weird setup, we have around about 4.5k mana, so we've lost 300 mana, which in all honesty, considering half of the setup isn't really a mage setup, not too bad at all. And then if we just try our one-hit damage on this zombie right here, we deal around about 1.6 million damage, which means we've actually only lost just over 100k damage. One-hit damage. So that is actually really good. Sorry to interrupt, but if you are planning on buying anything from the Hypixel store, make sure to use code NITROS. It gets yourself 5% off. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel, become part of the 30%. Join the Discord server, it's linked in the description of every single video. And of course, it just gets better if we get more stacks. At the moment, you can see we have 10 stacks. And we actually deal... Okay, let me try and get this to actually show visually. I mean, it's pretty difficult. So our base damage is 1.5, and then you can see it dealt an extra 2 million damage, which is crazy. Let's try and visualize that again. It's dealing the 1.6, and it's also dealing an additional 2. It's dealing close to 4 million damage in comparison to just the regular Storm setup, which is dealing 1.7 million. Now, of course, the main reason why this setup is so much better than just a regular mage setup in Storm is because of the Crimson pieces. Of course, the Crimson pieces aren't dungeonizable, therefore, in terms of in dungeons, this just ain't gonna work. But it's all well just simply testing out our damage against just regular hub mobs. Now, we need mobs with much higher health to test, really. And the only place we can really find them is the Crimson Isles. Now, this is actually good. Obviously, because of Derpy, these mobs have double health, so they have 5 million damage, so we can actually see just how quickly we can start to do damage to these things. Yeah, we have 10 stacks. 2 hits. That's really, really not bad. So basically what we can see is that regular Storm Armor, or just a regular mage setup that could also include Aurora as well, is going to be better at one-hit damage, but in terms of DPS, this setup is completely and utterly unmatched. Now, it's pretty easy to actually see against these spiders. As you can see, our first hit is going to take it down to 1.9 million damage. We do 3.1 million damage in our first hit, which is ridiculous. And obviously, the second hit finishes it off when we have full stacks. And these have 5 million health. Now, we're going to have a little go at Sven's. Now, I have tested this out a few times. We are in Derpy, So everything is double HP, so it is a little bit more difficult. I've been trying to one-hit one now for about 5 minutes, and well, we get pretty close. Just to have to make sure we get our stacks up beforehand. Well, we can get it down to 1 million HP straight away, and then yeah, we just kill it. I mean, it's really quite quick. I would say that I probably do run out of mana a little bit. But it is derpy, so the mobs do have double HP, so we would be 100% killing it straight away. But yeah, not too bad. Derpy doesn't help. Now, one thing I will say is that, of course, with just 2 pieces of Crimson, your stacks do dissipate relatively quickly in comparison to if you had, let's say, 4 pieces of Crimson. However, if you do run 4 pieces of Crimson, you're probably going to run into a bit of a mana issue. Now, if you can find a way to counteract that, or maybe if you are just that progress through the game where it isn't really an issue in terms of mana, then fair enough. I mean, of course, using an Overflux would help, and I didn't really use it too much. However, if I'm being completely honest, I don't really find the stacks to be much of an issue. Now, this set is actually way more versatile than you think. And yes, while Crimson Armor isn't dungeonizable, well, think about it. First of all, as proven in the Crimson Isles, it is very, very, very strong. If you use a Hyperion to kill Void Glooms, it's going to be very, very strong too. I would demonstrate at this point in the video, but if you've ever watched my channel before, you'll understand why I won't be actually demonstrating against Void Glooms, because you would just witness a skill issue rather than a decent armor set being proven. Pretty much any scenario outside of dungeons, and it's cracks. I'm telling you. Now, to be honest, the best thing about this setup is if you just have like a regular mage setup like I do, which is just Storm, or if you have Aurora, chances are you're going to have Wither Goggles too. So if you already have Wither Goggles and Storm or Necron Boots, then you already have half of the set. And then it's just a case of buying 2 pieces of Crimson. And you don't have to buy amazing Crimson, because at the end of the day, the only reason you're actually getting the Crimson is for the swipe ability and to get stacks, and you don't have to have good Crimson to be able to accumulate stacks. It's just the base stat. So that means if you just have a regular mage setup with a Hyperion, it's really, really quite cheap to make this setup. Considering you could pick up some pretty terrible Crimson leggings and chestplate up for the best part of 2 or 3 mil. Probably even less. Nor do you need a ridiculous pet, it's just a case of a sheep pet, which isn't really too expensive either. Don't get me wrong, you are going to need a Hyperion, which is over 2 billion coins. That is an issue. And of course there are more uses for this setup, but I just thought I'd sort of test it and show you. And the last time I did this video, I didn't really do it properly. But that just about wraps up today's video. Let me know in the comments if you've tested this setup out before or not. If you did enjoy today's video, make sure you do leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.
Walk 2500 on my shirt with the